And welcome back. It is, well, I'd say, a bit of a sad day here. Macron wins, unfortunately. Globalism, for now, has had a major victory in France. I would say an open border policy, a de-industrialization, and a continued genocide of the native French people will now continue. The European Union will continue. Here's who France elected. Macron wins, as everyone expected. Whatever. 65% to 35%. Here's who France elected.
French authorities are investigating whether fake news influenced the election. I agree, it did. The fake news that Macron is a maverick outsider when he's the ultimate establishment insider. They actually conned people into thinking that a bureaucrat from the outgoing socialist government was a populist outsider, an elitist who went to the very French school used by the elite to perpetuate itself. Groomed by the establishment, groomed by Hollande. A Rothschild banker, a Bilderberg member, a pet project of the Élysée Palace who's never been elected to anything in his entire life. If he's an outsider, I'm the frigging Queen of England. CNN said he was defying the mainstream. He is the frigging mainstream. He's been endorsed by every single unelected EU technocrat under the sun. Claiming Macron is an outsider is literally fake news.
The French people have been able to see the real Macron in the second round. The candidate of the elite's mask is slipping.
But hey, at least foreign interests aren't interfering in the French election like the evil Russians did in the US election, right? Wrong.
I am supporting Emmanuel Macron to lead you forward.
Okay, but at least Obama didn't try to hack the French election, right? Wrong again. It was his CIA that hacked Marine Le Pen's campaign back in 2012. Macron and Obama have a lot in common already. For starters, they both love to prosecute journalists. But at least, unlike Brexit and Trump, the French media has been fair and balanced, right? Wrong again. Their tongues couldn't get any deeper down Macron's butt crack. Look at this. Have you ever seen a clearer illustration of partisan bias? Who's voting for this guy? Paris is hit with 6 jihadist attacks in just 3 years, and only 5% of them vote for Le Pen. They might as well wave a white fucking flag. Are these idiots gonna be out on the street once again? So-called feminists physically trying to block people from voting for a woman who would be the first female president of France. Yeah, put some clothes on, you're a fucking disgrace. Macron branded 8 million Le Pen voters hateful cowards. They're mostly just a mixture of young people anxious that their economic and cultural future is being stolen, and older folk living out in the rural areas forgotten by the very liberal intelligentsia that Macron represents. Hateful cowards? You're the hateful piece of shit, Macron. You've got the nerve to call Le Pen a fearmonger, while you literally invoke the threat of civil war if people vote for her. Give me a fucking break. No wonder whenever you meet real people outside of your metropolitan elitist bubble, they boo and hiss.
Well, you can hear it. Factory workers whose jobs are under threat booed Mr. Macron.
Oh yeah, and why do you have a grandma for a wife? Is there something you're not telling us about Macron? Is there something...
Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't even realize, is that Macron ended up marrying his teacher. So his teacher and him had relations while he was a minor. So in essence, she was a pedophile. So he's involved in the pedophile ring as well. And the hole deepens.
The French people deserve to know about. Maybe something other countries could use to blackmail you with. Here's a guy who's so arrogant, he names his party after his own initials. Cult of personality much? But seriously, Macron is just going to be Merkel's bitch.
France will be led by a woman. It'll be either me or Mrs. Merkel. That's the truth.
After all, he's into being all weirdly subservient to older women. Macron's already signified he'll scheme with her to try to block Brexit. He wants to put sanctions on Poland just because they refuse to have their sovereignty eviscerated by the EU. This effete manlet may look like a complete pussy, But in reality, he's a nasty little globalist. His solution to France's anemic economy is green energy. Green energy, the very stupid idea that wrecked Spain's economy. If the polls are right for a change and Macron does win, France's submission to Islamism will accelerate. 6 months after a Muslim migrant killed 86 people in Nice, this twat celebrated the policy of welcoming Muslim migrants. Mark my words, if this guy gets in, major cities in France will be unrecognisable in 5 years. Parts of some already are, and by that point it may be too late even for Marine Le Pen to rescue the situation. It may be death by 1,000 cuts, but the end result is the same. A vote for Macron is a vote for national suicide.
That video was... he actually said a lot of stuff I was thinking. I do find it important to realize, though, once a society becomes secular, much like France and other European countries, and even in the West here, once the population turns away from divinity, once they lose their belief in God and in themselves, we see that they eat each other, and they go into a suicidal tendency. It appears France has chosen death and destruction then. For the Islamification of France and the invasion into Europe, if that was not a big enough wake-up call, while their people die in the street from invaders, if that was not a wake-up call, then they've chosen their own fate. They've chosen destruction. People say that Marine Le Pen would win in 4 years, but who's to say that France would exist in 4 years from now? Look how many people they were able to infiltrate and let invade the country in the last 3 years, let alone the next 4. So France has chosen suicide for reasons I'll never really understand, but it would appear quite clear that we are who we are, or we are where we are because of who we are, and France has just chosen their own fate. The next terrorist attack that happens in France, I would have to say, is almost the fault of the French people at this point. Paula White revealed a very promising fact about President Trump. Paul White says President Trump is becoming even more faithful since she met him 15 years ago. White is a senior pastor of New Destiny Christian Center in Apopka, Florida.
I've seen his faith deepen. I've known him for almost 15 years and have had this walk with him for many, many years along with his family. And I really continue to see a man that has always loved God but continue to deepen in his faith. Prays every day. Of course, Vice President Pence and 9 of the cabinet members hold Bible study every single week. It's quite amazing, but I couldn't imagine the office that he runs not turning to God and asking for his wisdom and his guidance. And so he does daily.
Well, we already talked about the dinner that you had with the president. I'm sure you mentioned or had some discussion about his upcoming trip to the Middle East. What is that going to look like for the president? Did you advise him in that?
You know, what that's going to look like, I'm sure his administration will let those details out. But we did discuss it, and we discussed many other things. And we're excited. I think things are going to look very, very positive. It's going to be a wonderful trip, and I think we'll come back with a great report. And it's very, very positive steps.
Well, it's nice to see at least one of our Western leaders, President Trump, actually believes in God. The rest of the leaders are quite secular in a failing civilization, but Trump's faith is deepening apparently, which is good news. For the closer we get to the source, the better things happen. President Trump just commented on the French election. He didn't really say what I hoped he would have said, but hey, congratulations to Emmanuel the globalist Macron on his big win today as the next president of France to bring about its destruction. I look very much forward to working with him. And of course I had to customize it, because we all know what's going to happen. Breaking. Look who just outclassed Hillary Clinton. Following her devastating loss to rival Emmanuel Macron, Marine Le Pen graciously accepted defeat and gave her concession speech. Remember when Hillary Clinton came out to give a classy concession speech when it was clear she had lost? Nah, me neither. From Paul Joseph Watson. It surely is upsetting to see France choose its own destruction, especially with such a high percentage. I think Macron won like 63% of the vote or something. It's really hard to imagine how stupid a person could be to vote for that idiot with all the crime within the country. So, the next thing that happens in France, which it will, I will admit I will not be as sympathetic as I once was, based on their actions.